Hello mortals, it's Discordian Kitty here. In honor of spooky season, this week's video is about all things Hallow's End. The lore of most of World of Warcraft's holidays tends to get a bit overlooked, and I think that's a shame, especially when Azeroth often has some very unique reasons to celebrate the way that they do. So join me as we dig into all things spooky, mysterious, and revolutionary. Hallow's End is obviously based on our own world's Halloween, and the origins for this holiday, on the Alliance side at least, are quite similar. The season marks a time when it is believed the veil between the living and the dead has thinned, and so it's easier for the living to sense the spirits of those who have passed on. Hallow's End culminates in the Day of the Dead, again, a holiday based on a celebration from our own world, and with very similar meaning. During this time, the people of Azeroth visit graveyards to honor and celebrate their beloved dead. Of course, these days, the people of Azeroth have several ways to communicate with their beloved dead. Some of them have become Death Knights or some other form of undead. Others can simply be visited in their new realms in the Shadowlands. For the most part, the date doesn't seem to have much effect on hauntings at all. Most ghosts that we know of can be found pretty much all year round. Frankly, the veil on Azeroth separating the living from the dead is more like a constantly revolving door than anything else. But there are some ghosts that we know of who only appear during Hallow's End, especially during the Day of the Dead, when the veil is meant to be thinnest. Also, the celebration of Hallow's End predates the opening of the Dark Portal and the Scourge and the trip to the Shadowlands and anything else that has made the veil so much thinner these days. And nobody's going to stop celebrating a fun holiday just because things have changed since they were invented. Otherwise, we wouldn't celebrate anything anymore. In fact, the Forsaken of Azeroth, who of course are the beloved dead and so have little reason to celebrate the thinning of the veil between the living and the dead, have repurposed the holiday. They celebrate it as a time when Sylvanas Windrunner liberated them from the control of the Lich King. In that sense, it's almost like a dark Easter, with Sylvanas representing the savior who rescued the Forsaken from the eternal damnation of being mindless Scourge. Even today, despite everything that's happened, the Forsaken have reason to celebrate their freedom, and Hallow's End is a reminder that they don't have to take death lying down. Now, if you're from Classic, you may be yelling at me that the Forsaken repurposed nothing. The Wickerman Festival was originally only celebrated by the Forsaken of Undercity, and the Alliance only got their festival after Cataclysm. And this is true in-game. But in Arthas, Rise of the Lich King, Hallow's End is mentioned as something that living humans celebrate, establishing it as a tradition that was around for living humans long before Sylvanas liberated the undead. There were several smaller festivals leading up to Hallow's End. One was somber, one was celebratory, and this one was a bit of both. It was believed to be a time when the barrier between the living and the dead was thin, and those who had passed on could be sensed by those still alive. Tradition had it that at the end of the harvest season, before the winds of winter began to blow, that a straw effigy would be erected right outside the palace. At sunset, on the night of the ceremony, it would be lit on fire. It was an awesome sight, a giant flaming wicker man burning bright against the encroaching night. Anyone who wished could approach the fiery effigy, toss a branch into the crackling flames, and in doing so metaphorically burn away anything he did not wish to carry into the quiet, deep reflection time provided by the winter's enforced inactivity. It was a peasant ritual, sprung up from time immemorial. Arthur suspected that few nowadays truly believed that tossing a branch into the fire would really solve their problems. Even fewer believed that contact with the dead was possible. He certainly didn't. But it was a popular celebration, and it brought Jaina back to Lordaeron, and for those reasons, he was looking forward to it. But yes, after the Cataclysm, the Gilneans, like the Forsaken, adopted the Wickerman Festival as symbolic of their struggles, and in the aftermath of the changes brought about by Deathwing, both Gen Greymane and Sylvanas Windrunner attended their respective festivals to deliver speeches.
Sons and daughters of Gilneas! Friends and allies, old and new, please come close. As you know, Hallow's End is a celebration of transition, of change. The people of Gilneas understand the gravity of change all too well. For we have endured much, far beyond what any of us could have imagined. However, this is a time of neither mourning nor grief. It is an opportunity to mock the fearsome, to gaze boldly into the grim unknown and laugh. It is a time to celebrate new friends and the future we may forge together. New struggles await us with each dawn, and uncertainty weighs upon us all. As you stand before me, I pray you cast your burdens behind me. Let this Wickerman embody any unrest within us. With turmoil as tinder, let it blaze. May it temper us against what tomorrow may bring. Torches ready! Let the flames fly! Hallow's End is upon us!
Children of the grave, heed my call. In life, we suffered unspeakable tragedies. We watched as our homes were razed to the ground. We cried out in agony as our families were cut down before our eyes. Finally, in the face of such atrocities, we were denied even the release of death. Now, we burn this Wickerman as a symbol of our victory against old enemies. We paint our faces with the ash to send a message to new enemies. A declaration to those who fear and revile us as monsters. To those who would question our place in this world, we are not monsters. We are not the mindless wretches of a ghoul army. No! We are a force even more terrifying. We are a chill in a coward's spine. We are the instruments of an unyielding ire. We are the Forsaken.
As I said, in Classic, only the Forsaken celebrate the Wickerman Festival, and only Sylvanas, the Banshee Queen, delivers a speech. Children of the night, heed your queen's call. I join you in celebration of this most revered of nights, the nights we Forsaken broke the Scourge's yoke of oppression. It is this night that our enemies fear us the most. It is this night that we show our enemies what it means to stand against the Forsaken. We burn the effigy of the Wickerman as a symbol of our struggle against those who would oppose us. We wear the ashes of the burnt Wickerman as a symbol of our never-ending fight against those who would enslave us. Now is the time to shake the world to its foundations. Now is the time to remind those who would enslave us that we shall never yield. Now is the time of the Forsaken. Power to the Forsaken, now and forever. Interestingly, the veil thinning that's supposed to occur on Azeroth and our own world during this time is also experienced on alternate Draenor. At least, a surge of energy occurs that draws the attention of skeletal pirates known as the Bone Fleet. And when I say during this time, I guess I mean around the time of autumn, roughly halfway between the time of the equinox and the solstice. The length of Azeroth and Draenor's year seems to be pretty aligned, coincidentally with our own year. But generally you'd assume different planets have different calendars to reflect their different revolutions around different suns. And I don't even want to start trying to go into northern versus southern hemispheres. Either way, Candy buckets and Hallow's End's decorations can also be found on Outland during this time, and Shatrath City celebrates the Day of the Dead. So presumably our own Draenor had the same thinning of the veil that inspired the Hallow End celebrations as well. There are no candy buckets or anything else suggesting a Hallow's End type celebration on Argus, in the Shadowlands, or on Koresh. Venthyr players can get a vision of Sire Denathrius to scare Ember Court guests with during Hallow's End, and it increases their happiness, so the suggestion is at least that the idea of a spooky but fun time is understood. But that's likely just the Ember Court reacting to our own traditions. Finally, World of Warcraft's Hallow's End includes things like trick-or-treating, carving pumpkins into lanterns, dressing up in costumes, eating your own weight in candy, and playing pranks on each other, all recognizable from our own world. For the most part, the origins are likely similar as well. What started off as a way to appease, honor, or ward off the spirits just became something fun that people do mostly because it's popular with the kids. On Azeroth, the pranks seem to be specifically tied to faction rivalry, with the Alliance and Horde often pranking each other in kinda mean but mostly harmless ways. Ultimately, while other races have also come to start celebrating it, Hallow's End would have began as a human holiday. On the Horde side, the Forsaken are the ones who spearhead the celebrations, celebrating it as a symbol of their freedom from the Scourge. But since we now know humans celebrated Hallow's End and the Wickerman Festival before the Scourge even existed, then it's also likely that the Forsaken celebrated in part because they were once human. But times change, and with it, these celebrations. The meaning can change, and the Forsaken made it theirs. They created something even more meaningful. Something that celebrates their freedom and determination to face their struggles head on. And while Ghain Greymane would be horrified at this suggestion, this in turn seems to have inspired the Gilneans' own approach to the festival. In-game, Hallow's End is in dire need of an update. Both festivals are still trapped in the Cataclysm aftermath. But times have changed again. The Forsaken have had to re-examine their relationship with Sylvanas. Gilneans have returned home and have even found a way to be at peace with their Forsaken neighbors. But this doesn't mean the people of Azeroth no longer need a Wickerman Festival. There are still plenty of struggles, plenty of reason to celebrate their own fiery spirits and determination. With player housing on its way, my hope is that we see these celebration hubs begin to move into our neighborhoods. And when they do, maybe we can learn more about what they mean to the people of Azeroth today. Now, in our world, the Headless Horseman can refer to several spooky stories, like the one from the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Usually, the horseman is a ghost who is either carrying or missing his head. Sometimes he's using a pumpkin as a replacement. Often, he's an omen of death. Sometimes, because he's looking for a new head, he'll cut off the head of anyone who sees him just to try it on. On Azeroth, the Headless Horseman is a specific guy with a specific story. In life, he was a human named Sir Thomas Thompson, a Knight of the Silver Hand during the time when the Scourge was spreading across Lordaeron. As the plague spread, Sir Thomas became more and more zealous, joining the Scarlet Crusade and taking part in the ruthless killing of any refugees believed to be infected. Until one day, to his horror, he realized that he had unknowingly killed his own family in a purge. The revelation drove him insane, and in a battle against the Scourge on Hallow's Eve, he turned on his fellow Crusaders, who were forced to decapitate him because, he was killing them, but also because he had started to talk in the most awful rhyme, and I think we can all agree that decapitation is the only reasonable reaction to poetry. Of course, the Scarlet Crusade was actually secretly led by the Dreadlord Balnazar in disguise, and he used fell energy to reanimate Sir Thomas, transforming him into the Headless Horseman and letting him loose on Azeroth to spread destruction. Dreadlords tend to go in for that sort of thing generally, but I do want to talk a little bit more about Balnazar's motivations in a bit. For years, the Headless Horseman would appear during Hallow's End in both Alliance and Horde towns, raining down death and destruction on both innocent and guilty alike.
Prepare yourselves. The bells have tolled. Shelter your weak, your young, and your old. Each of you shall pay the final sum. Cry for mercy! The reckoning has come! Ha 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 ha!
The Headless Horseman could not be killed unless his head was rejoined with his body, but adventurers entered the Scarlet Monastery to defeat him, freeing Sir Thomas's spirit from the curse and ending the torment of hearing unsolicited poetry. But that was not the last of the Headless Horseman. During the events of Dragonflight, the spirit of Sir Thomas began to reach out to players, calling them back to the Scarlet Monastery to help him try find and reunite with the spirit of his wife, Susanna. As it turns out, the whole thing was a trap. A Scarlet Crusader was trying to bring back the Headless Horseman, believing that this would help cleanse Azeroth in righteous fire. Once again, adventurers were sent into the Scarlet Monastery to deal with the Headless Horseman. This time, they were able to bring peace not only to the soul of Sir Thomas, but they reunited him with the soul of his beloved Susanna as well.
It is done. The Headless Horseman is no more.
Then let us rest, my love. At long last.
My family is whole again, as is my soul. I cannot thank you enough, champions.
In what can only be called a final act of aggression, the Headless Horseman rewarded players with one last poem. Though once brought low and lost to fright, at last Sir Thomas has seen the light. His spirit at peace, his love returned, the shackles that bound him now broken and burned. Thus ends his tale of woe untold, saved by the hand of a hero bold. I know, right? Horrifying. Also, there's this bit. The tales the Forsaken tell of the devastation the Scourge wrought on Lordaeron would make anyone fall to madness. Despite that, the Paladin's strength and dedication to his family never wavered. Admirable, I think. His dedication to his family never wavered? Orphan matron, he murdered them all! As I said, one of the traditions of Hallow's End is to don disguises, and no one in World of Warcraft is better at disguises than the Dreadlords. Balnazar himself was disguised as the leader of the Scarlet Crusade, which is how he was able to manipulate poor Sir Thomas in the first place. In the comic, he created the Headless Horseman as a tribute to his master, and at the time this was very clearly about Sargeras. Balnazar even mentions the Legion in the previous panel, but information we've learned since can also reframe this scene. During Shadowlands, we discovered that the Dreadlords were created by Sire Denathrius to infiltrate the other cosmological forces and bring the influence of death into their realms. Later, Mal'Ganis himself confirmed that the Dreadlords we know and love were part of this infiltration, and he calls Sire Denathrius the Master.
Our mission never changed. For eons, we have done the Master's bidding in secret across countless realities. The Scourge, Argus, all pawns in a game beyond your grasp. One that now nears its end.
So when Balnazar created the Headless Horseman, it could have been because the ensuing chaos was a great tribute to Sargeras, but it could also have simply been about spreading death as a tribute to Sire Denathrius, which would also suggest Denathrius has long-term plans for Azeroth. In the book Enemy Infiltration Preface, written by a Dreadlord and which again refers to Denathrius as Master, this plan to infiltrate the other cosmological forces is expanded on. In the section about Fel, they reinforce the idea that Denathrius' plans are meant to be long-term. Our position within the plane of disorder is proceeding flawlessly. Consuming Fel energy is not a pleasant process, but a necessary one. The deception you have architected will bear fruit in the ages to come. This book has a few other interesting highlights, but one that's probably about to become the most significant during Midnight is probably the section about the light, where they seem to openly admit Lothraxion is a double agent. Similar to the Titans, the Naru and their keepers are singular in purpose. Their adherence to a linear path is an obvious shortcoming. They savor nothing more than being proved right, so if they believe they have converted one of us to their precious light, they will trust that agent implicitly. The section on life is also something to keep in mind, especially as we prepare to deal more with the Haranir. The adherents to life are the most insidious of opponents. perhaps because their nature is so antithetical to our own. Still, we learned much from observing the link between their plane and Ardenweald, and we have high confidence that a vulnerability has been identified. Our operative has already gained the trust of her target. Remember that whisper from Il'gynoth?
The vassal of life disguises treachery. Beware the eyes of greed.
The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Magni was the King of Diamonds. Magni chatted to Azeroth. Beware the eyes of green. Orwena has green eyes. Orwena chats to Azeroth. A female operative has gained the trust of a representative of life. So you do know what this means, don't you? Azeroth is a Dreadlord. Taking a step back from the insane, Hallow's End is of course associated with plenty of rewards, like flying undead horses and ghostly pets. There's not a whole lot of lore to go into here, but something did stand out for me during the questline that rewards the creepy crate pet. Like a lot of these sorts of questlines, it's slightly different for the Alliance and Horde, but tells essentially the same story. A quest giver wants your help retrieving a crate of precious family heirlooms that has been stolen. While investigating, we're approached by an archaeologist who warns that the crate is dangerous and must not be allowed to fall into the wrong hands. When we eventually find the crate, we choose to take it back to the original quest giver or the archaeologist. If we take it to the archaeologist, they give it to the original quest giver anyway, in exchange for a powerful artifact. But the crate turns the quest giver into a giant spider and they die, leaving us with a new pet crate that doesn't ever transform us into anything, but is known to eat critters. In both quests, the artifact that's been promised to the archaeologist has to do with Medivh. Medivh was the last guardian of Azeroth. One of the most powerful mages ever to exist, he became possessed by Sargeras and was the one who opened the Dark Portal. To this day, his Tower of Karazhan is known to be a place of great mystery and power, so it makes sense that the archaeologists would exchange something as dangerous as the creepy crate for one of Medivh's artifacts. On the Alliance side, the archaeologist is a human who was promised a charm that he would be able to use to help him enter Karazhan, but the quest giver dies before he can tell the archaeologist how to use it. It's the Horde side where things get interesting. Here, the archaeologist is Dalen Sunshade, a Blood Elf member of the Reliquary, a primarily Blood Elven organization dedicated to the acquisition of powerful magical artifacts. It's similar to the Alliance's Explorers League, but it has a bit of a reputation for caring more about power and wealth than it does preservation or truth. And the artifact Dalen trades the crate for is apparently Medivh's grimoire. Since Dalen doesn't need to be told how to use the grimoire, he just seems amused when the quest giver dies, as it means he can claim the book for the reliquary without trading anything. This really caught my eye because Medivh's grimoire is no small thing. During Warcraft 3, we were told only one spellbook of Medivh remained, the Book of Medivh.
Very well then. There is a special tome you must find. The only remaining spellbook of Medivh, the Last Guardian. Only his lost incantations are powerful enough to bring me into your world.
This book remained in the hands of Kel'Thuzad for most of World of Warcraft's history until Legion, where it made its way into the hands of the Warlock players. So the book that Dalen obtained is unlikely to be the same thing. In other words, while of course it's always possible that the quest giver was simply lying and this is just a random book, it's also completely possible that this questline leaves one of Medivh's spellbooks, one that most people didn't even know existed, in the hands of the Reliquary. And while Dalen isn't really an important character, he never shows up again after this quest, he does mention taking the grimoire to Belloc Brightblade. As I said, the Reliquary has a bit of a reputation, though not so much these days. As you may remember from Dragonflight, they're even quite happy to work alongside the Explorers League. But when it comes to that negative reputation, Belloc is one of the members who caused it in the first place. And if you think I'm being too harsh, his own daughter, who is also a member of the Reliquary, straight up calls him a grave robber. Brightblade? The name sounds familiar. Oh, you must mean my father, Belloc. What he and the reliquary do can hardly be called archaeology. Grave robbing is more like it. True archaeology is the search for fact, not treasure. I want to learn about the past, study where we came from, and rediscover lost knowledge. Belloc has also shown himself to be quite ruthless in the past, even though he has a reputation for making sure not to get his own hands dirty. During Cataclysm, he was behind an assassination attempt on, well, what turned out to be a black dragon in disguise, but the point is, Belloc blew up his house. In Hearthstone, which isn't canonical lore but sometimes hints at things about our own lore, Belloc wears the ornate plate armor that in World of Warcraft the current leader of the reliquary wears. In other words, this is a blood elf with hidden depths, a likely sizable amount of ambition, and potentially one of Medivh's lost grimoires. And we're about to visit the blood elves in Midnight. I just love to see this turn into something, is my point. Bringing me to the final bit of Hallow's End lore I'd like to highlight in this video, the story of some good old-fashioned witches. And I mean properly good old-fashioned. They were murdered despite being innocent, helpless women and everything. Under the Crooked Tree is a Hallow's End quest introduced in Legion. During a breadcrumb quest in Dalaran, you're warned of a great evil in Val'sharah. I've seen it, and I wish I hadn't. If you take my advice, you will stay far away from the Crooked Tree in Braden's book. Obviously, the only way to respond to this is to head straight for the Crooked Tree in Braden's book, where you can meet the Hag of the Crooked Tree, Lorraine Sorrowheart. So, you've come to the Crooked Tree. To name a foe, you asked of me. Yes, I am sorry, it is more poetry. But listen first to my tragic tale, then you will hear my sister's wail. Lorraine tells us that she was once the youngest of 4 sisters, but that they were falsely accused of some crime and hung from the Crooked Tree. All 3 of her sisters, Arya, Lyanna, and Muriel, died, but she, the youngest, managed to escape by slipping out of her noose. According to Lorraine, the person to blame for this injustice was Old Ravencrest. My 3 sisters from that tree hung. The crimes accused, there was not one. The youngest sister did escape, as the noose loped around their nape. Old Ravencrest is the one to blame. This curse for you to lift our shame. Curtalis Ravencrest was the lord of the nearby Black Rookhold and a great hero during the War of the Ancients. He was the one who led the Kaldorei resistance against the Legion until Queen Ashara had him assassinated. It could be that Old Ravencrest referred to his father or grandfather instead of him, but still, it's pretty disconcerting to see his name associated with something like this. No wonder Lorraine's oldest sister, Arya, still haunts the area as a banshee. Obviously, this questline is a reference to the witch trials, where countless men and women across the world were murdered after being accused of witchcraft. In fact, the quest has a chance to reward transmoggable witches' hats. Which is, you know, a little tasteless if you think about it. But hey, witchy transmog, so I'm not going to complain. But first, Lorraine asks us to help bring Arya's spirit peace. Steel your heart and drink deep, return my sister back to sleep. Wretched creatures, you've already stolen my life. What else do you wish to take from me? The curse is lifted, now I can finally rest. But remember, hero, let not good men acquiesce. Arya's final words are chilling. She doesn't condemn the person who had her killed. Instead, she references the good men who did nothing. It brings to mind that famous quote, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." My dear sister, laid to rest, a tortured hero proves their best. Today I do lift this curse and offer you a token, a small purse. My other sisters are still gone, there comes a day to right their wrong. It does raise the question, was Old Ravencrest to blame because he was the one who had these women killed? Or did he just do nothing to intervene when the mob turned on them? Either way, it's one of those odd little stories where you don't really feel satisfied at the end of it. As Lorraine says, her sisters are still dead. We were able to bring a little bit of peace, but we couldn't provide justice. Arya feels like her life was stolen from her and asks us what else we want to take. And we take her hat. Like, that's the quest. Are we the grave robbers? So once again, this is a holiday story that I'd really love to see revisited one day in the future. Partly because I love any witch story anyway, but mostly because I think the Sorrowheart sisters deserve better. And what better time for justice than Hallow's End, a time that has come to represent revolution, independence, and freedom. And on that cheerful note, it's time to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed it, you can like, subscribe, comment, share, all the good YouTube stuff. You know how it works. I'd also like to thank my Patreons who help keep this channel going. You can see their names before you. If you want to find me anywhere else, Twitch, Blue Sky, whatever, I'm always at Discordian Kitty. I hope you've had a wonderful Hallow's End and have an amazing Halloween. And hopefully I'll see you again. God, I really do need a better outro, don't I? Bye!